Let's get into the film room here and talk about some things and maybe some takes that we got right this year. And we're going to start at the quarterback position. This is a clip from the show I did with John Daigle, the quarterback preview show. These are the quarterback sleeper picks that we highlighted from that show. Let's take a listen. Yeah, I have him as QB 11. He's someone that I really want in my drafts. Like you said, no victory lapping. This is a Scott Pianowski favorite. When everybody on Twitter is victory lapping like the most obvious play of the week. Who liked Drake Maye? Everybody liked Drake Maye. I haven't found a fantasy analyst that's been willing to say like, don't take Drake Maye in your drafts this year. Actually, because I was stuck in the Charlotte airport last night and I'm a sick freak, I actually rewatched the first drive of the Jaguars. First team. I know. It was truly shameful. They were literally cleaning the food court around me, stacking chairs because I needed an outlet, and that was the only place that I could do it. And I'm like sitting there with a paper, and
this guy needs to get a
got
life.
My headphones in. Like lady's looking at me. She's cleaning the floor. I was like, do I need to move? Because I'm doing some serious stuff here. I'm charting Jaguars wide receiver alignment on their first team preseason snap. Okay. But again, we're high on Travis Hunter. We're high on Brian Thomas Jr. We love the Liam Cohen effect. Does the math work out for Trevor Lawrence to still be QB 18 in fantasy and for all of those things to happen? Okay, this clip is abhorrent and great at the same time here. So Drake Maye obviously was the first player to talk about there. Drake Maye was QB2 this year. He was the quarterback I wanted the most. He was my guy in the Blueprint article. We were all as I mentioned, everybody was excited about Drake Maye. That was obviously something we got right. The lesson there is always to bet on the second year, the athletic quarterbacks, especially a guy like Drake Maye who was, this is what you talked about when earlier, Boone. This is the archetype of quarterback to bet on here. He had a better season than I think any of us could have imagined in his second season, obviously with Josh McDaniels taking over there and, some of the players around him. The Lawrence one is hilarious because, we're talking about Trevor Lawrence as a sleeper quarterback on that show. By the way, I can't believe I wasted real human seconds charting Jaguars receiver alignment in August, but I do remember doing that. I'm not sure what's more horrifying, thinking about being stuck in the Charlotte airport or doing that again. Like De'Ami Brown, I forgot he existed until I saw him, late in the season in week 18. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when he was going to play a big role. Also, I remember when Travis Hunter was going to play a big role. I remember when Brian Thomas Jr. was going to play a big role. Like Trevor Lawrence was a great sleeper quarterback, ended up being QB4, not for the reasons that I said in that show. So I'm not actually sure I can take any credit for this one.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Maye, one of the most impressive things, and he did have big games, but one of the most impressive things is he really didn't have any bad weeks. Like he was only under 17 fantasy points 3 times all year. He was only under 15 fantasy points once, and it was 12. Like he didn't have like that throw 4 interceptions, put up 3 points, you lose your week because you got nothing from your quarterback. And we know he was really, really good in the fantasy playoffs, right? And for Lawrence, it kind of happened like in the second half of the season, and he got a little more comfortable for sure in that Cohen offense. And I think that has to be really exciting for the future, right? Like looking at him as potentially reaching like a new phase of his career, because before this year, he just wasn't like a great fantasy option. He was like a, 17, 18 points a game kind of guy on average. Would have the odd big game, but wasn't really somebody that you felt good about having as your quarterback, except for like, a bye week fill-in kind of situation or a really good matchup. And this year, under Liam Cohen, he really started to put it together. They got him more weapons. They go out and get Jacoby Myers. They extend him. It's unfortunate that Travis Hunter wasn't healthy for the whole year and we didn't get to see what he could potentially become. Hopefully we'll get to see that next season, but they have the weapons around him now. They have the coach in place. He's one of these guys that can run. And man, in the fantasy playoffs, just historic, right? Like over 30 fantasy points per game, help people win fantasy titles. He was excellent to the point where I now am changing my future outlook for him, my dynasty outlook for him. I do think he could be that, annual perennial QB1 in fantasy moving forward if he can keep this going, which I think he can.
I totally agree. And the difference between, like Baker Mayfield having that top 10 quarterback season under Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence having it is Liam Cohen's going to be here basically for as long as he wants to be because he's the head coach. He's not the offensive coordinator. And that's definitely the lesson to learn from this thing is like Play callers, man. Josh McDaniels going to New England, massive upgrade. Trevor Lawrence getting Liam Cohen, huge. So there's different degree, obviously, what's going on with Ben Johnson in Chicago. That's a little bit more of a work in progress because Caleb Williams a little bit more he just had that horrible rookie year, so we'll see what happens with him going forward. But still, a guy that I think you'd be pretty confident about. Was 5th in the NFL in pass attempts was Caleb Williams this year, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Got to feel pretty good about the development that he is on right now. So play callers matter so much. I'm not sure if we're going to see one of those guys change teams this year, but we will obviously be talking about that over the course of this month or next month when we do the coaching show. We always do an annual show there. I'm sure we'll have Nate Tice on to do that as well. 2 other quick ones. By the way, just real quickly on Trevor Lawrence before we move on. I'm with you that we're changing outlooks for Trevor Lawrence, and I guarantee this is going to be a talking point in the offseason. Like, this Jags receiver room is too crowded, too many weapons. I will always just be willing to bet. I don't care if it's crowded because ADP will adjust to it being crowded, and I'm going to be taking shots on that Jaguars receiver room because it's such a good offense. We saw that this year, and I think we can feel pretty good about Trevor getting some of these guys to where we're going to go. So we got a long time to talk about all that. 2 more quarterbacks to just quickly hit on here. We pretty much banged the drum consistently on Dak Prescott being a value QB1 after an off year. He was QB6 this year. That's another kind of offensive environment. Plus, obviously, getting George Pickens was big. And we all, you hammered this home, especially during the season. And I said this, like, I'm not drafting Kyler Murray at cost this year. Murray was QB 38 overall. He was obviously somebody that was hugely disappointing. Obviously, injury was a part of it, but he was not playing up to starting quarterback level. And you talked about that quite a bit as well, Boone.
Yeah, I mean, the Murray one was just obvious, especially as the season was going along. He didn't even have a top 15 fantasy performance, like a weekly fantasy performance. Was not inside the top 15 any week before he got hurt. And then it was just so damning when we saw Jacoby Brissett go out there and do what he did in this offense. And I know the team wasn't winning many games, but still him going out there and kind of activating or unlocking Trey McBride and Michael Wilson and even Marvin Harrison Jr. when he was healthy for some of the games, it was just an entirely different offense with Brissett out there. And Brissett is like a journeyman quarterback, right? It's not like they brought in some superstar quarterback that took over for him, on top of the fact that like the team seemed to kind of rally, and maybe this is me reading too much into it and this is total speculation, but it really felt like some of the quotes from the players that they really enjoyed like the leadership that Brissett brought. And they really kind of rallied around him. And I think that also seemed to be kind of a negative for Kyler. So we'll see if Kyler's back there or not. But regardless, we're going to be reassessing his fantasy outlook moving forward.
All right, let's get to running backs here. And we got a banger of a clip to play here. This one is from me, and this one is on a certain rookie running back. Let's hear it. I'm going to make an absolutely disgusting comparison.
Don't say Trent Richardson.
That's exactly what I'm about to say. Like, it's a disgusting comparison. Trent Richardson turned out to not be the player that everybody hoped he is. So let's live in this pretend world where Ashton Jeanty is not the player that everybody hopes he is. He averaged 3.6 yards per carry, played on an offense in the Cleveland Browns that ranked 24th in points per game in 2012, and he was the running back 8 in fantasy points that year. I do think that Jeanty can do a lot of that, could end up having a pretty similar season. Incredible stuff here because rookie year Trent Richardson, this is from Ian Hartitz. I actually replied to this post with this video on social media. I think this was yesterday as well. Trent Richardson, his rookie season, 318 touches, 1,317 yards, 12 touchdowns. Rookie year, Ashton Jeanty, 321 touches, 1,321 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I mean, listen, again, I actually think Ashton Jeanty is good. You know, maybe he's not like the best running back in the league or something, but I actually still think he's good. But this was a way that when we were talking about like how can it work? This was from the running back episode, Boone, where we were poking holes on the rookie running backs. Like, how could this class not work out? The contrarian corner. This was one of the first episodes we did together. And for Jeanty, it was, well, how is it not going to work out? It's not going to work out because the Raiders stink. But it could end up being fine for Jeanty because he's going to score touchdowns. He's going to get a ton of volume. That is what ended up happening for Jeanty from a fantasy standpoint.
There were still weird stretches where they didn't use him as much as I thought they should as a pass catcher, but eventually they did come around on that. And it's funny because one of the first things that I wanted to bring up, and we're going to talk about Jeanty and Richardson here as well. Jeanty's more of a pass catcher and either kind of different players in that sense. You go back and look, Trent Richardson's rookie season, he had a career high 51 receptions that year, right? And didn't come close to that ever again, but still had some pretty good receiving stats that year. So it is kind of a scary comparison.
55 for Jeanty this year. It's crazy,
right? It's close. But yeah, I think you look at this team and you just try to see ways, can the Raiders improve? Where can they improve? Basically everywhere, right? From the coaching staff to the quarterback to the offensive line to the weapons around him that aren't named Brock Bowers. Like, they need a lot of pieces in that offense to really get him going and to completely activate him from a fantasy perspective. And I mean, hopefully they can get that done this offseason. It might take a little bit of time to turn things around here. And I remember saying at the time in the summer that, he wasn't on the level of Bijan Robinson or Saquon Barkley or that kind of prospect coming out. But I still think he's a tier or two behind that. He's not just completely nobody and a guy that's going to fall off the map. So I still think he's going to have a promising career, but it's going to require the Raiders to get a lot of things right and get a lot of things right quickly in order for him to get back up into the range where he was going in drafts this year, being kind of that top 15 pick or even sneaking into the back end of the first round.
Totally. The lesson here is always just be wary. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the talent is. Doesn't matter who the player is. You just got to really be wary about running backs in these potential rotten ecosystems. One of my favorite career memories, Boone, is actually, I think this was maybe my second season at the NFL. Second season at NFL Network. The big NFL account, which has millions and millions of followers, they tweeted out an article that I did, which basically said I was fading Todd Gurley in the 2016 season. And Todd Gurley, they tagged Todd Gurley in it because, of course, they tag all players. Oh my God, we don't need to do this. And he responded to it. Said, "Stop hating, man." I was like, bro, I think you're a great player. It's a fantasy thing. It's just whatever. I actually ended up meeting Todd Gurley multiple times years later. Great guy. Joked about it. He's awesome. But the thing is, I actually ended up being right. That 2016 season, he was disappointing as the first overall pick that year because the Rams sucked. And the Raiders suck this year. It doesn't matter how good you are. Running back is always a product of the environment. So I'm sure we'll be able to identify a few of those debates this offseason. Just one more to note here. I was personally very bullish on the Jaguars, taking a Jaguars running back. Travis Etienne ended up being a great pick. That's always one to just not avoid those congested situations, the ambiguous backfield. So that is a lesson to learn here. But Boone, we have got a great clip to play from you on the running back preview show. We got some pins here for you to just go ahead and knock down. So we're just going to let you cook on this one. Let's give it a listen.
I don't think people should be that worried about McCaffrey here. He is, in my mind, right back there. I think he is going to have a great season. I think he belongs in this group. And you put him in here with a bit of an asterisk because you do not have to pay the same price by any means to get him on your team. By the end of the season, we are going to see Chase Brown be a household name. I believe it. I think that is totally true. I don't think anybody there is going to take significant work away from him as long as he stays healthy in this offense that I think is going to be very, very potent this season. Chase Brown has been, I think, one of the best picks at that 2-3 turn. I'm still willing to take him as he continues to rise here. Henderson, to me, looks like a player who, I think I said this on the show when we were talking about Hampton one time, and it wasn't because they were the same type of player, but Jahmyr Gibbs' rookie season, he only played about 56% of the snaps. So he wasn't dominating the backfield. He was sharing the backfield, and yet he still was the RB11 in fantasy points per game that year. I think he's somebody that people should be very high on. I have him in the top 20.
Two more also that we don't have from that clip here. You had RJ Harvey as a guy who could start slow, come on late. Nailed it. You also had Bijan Robinson, too big to fail, as we were kind of discussing some of the offensive line injuries. Boom. Nailed it. CMC, running back 1. TreVeyon Henderson, you had in the top 20 as a must-draft player. He was running back 19. Chase Brown, RB8 on the season. And by the end of the year, he was not just a household name, he was one of the guys you needed in that late second to third round range. So I would say, Boone, that was 5. I guess the Henderson one, maybe people will quibble with it. But to me, that was 5 straight, just perfectly accurate statements.
I appreciate that. We do get some things right once in a while for all the Kenneth Walker, JJ McCarthy things that we get wrong. Yeah, I think I was most happy about, because I didn't think the CMC thing was like that much of a hot take, though as I got into more drafts in the summer, I realized that I guess it was, because he was falling to me a lot, like the mid to even almost like late first round in some drafts. I thought the calls on the rookies really stood out to me, because for like the first half of the season, even I was getting some pushback from people. All these were terrible calls. Why did I draft these guys? Should I drop these guys? Those sorts of questions. And the idea was always like, no. And I did think that Henderson in particular, I thought he would come on sooner. It really took like a Stevenson injury in order for him to be unlocked. But both these guys ended up having meaningful second halves of the season. And when you're drafting these rookie running backs, that's really what you're looking for, right? And the Harvey one, as sad as it is, as unfortunate as it is for J.K. Dobbins, it just almost feels inevitable at this point that he's going to get hurt at some point during the year. We've seen it happen every season, no matter how well he's playing. We saw the whole thing happen with the Chargers last year, right? And it was almost like a one-for-one carbon copy this season, where he was playing pretty well, and then he goes down, and all of a sudden you see another back step up, and this time it was Harvey. So it was great to see those guys come on and have some big games, especially like for Henderson in the second half of the season. And we're counting that point when Stevenson was out for a few games there as well. But in the second half of the season, from week 9 on, Henderson was actually the RB10 in fantasy points per game. So that puts him even closer to that Jahmyr Gibbs comparison that I made. And then, the Chase Brown one, another one where it feels like you got it right and wrong, even though if the part that we got wrong was a little bit out of our control, with Joe Burrow getting hurt and a very tough schedule at that point, and him kind of struggling for a month or so there. And then you get Joe Flacco under center, and then eventually Burrow back, and he just goes off in the second half of the year. So did quite well with the running back rankings this year. Pretty happy with those.